Today's video is the Tsurinoya Genius BFS reel, an honest review. Hey there, how's it going? Let's talk Tsurinoya Genius. You know, one of the first reasons that I wanted this is because it's a Dark Wolf Ultra clone. The second reason is it's got the new version of the brakes. And the third reason is it's 8.1 to 1 gear ratio. This seemed like a great budget trout fishing reel to me. That's where I like the really fast ratios, is because in those shallow streams, I like to be able to get through the water as fast as I need to. And sometimes the fish just really want a bait moving really fast. So the real question is, now that I've had this for 6 months, how good is it? Does it live up to the hype? And I think the answer is kind of yes and no. The one thing that I'm really starting to notice, especially in the AliExpress type reels, is there is a little bit of variation from sample to sample. You know, reels that should really pretty much be the same don't necessarily feel 100% the same. Sometimes you get just the what they call a tolerance stack. So all of the components have tolerances that they're allowed to be within. And sometimes if you get all of them that are in one direction, maybe the reel feels a little bit more sloppy. In another direction, maybe it feels a little tight. And quite frankly, I doubt the tolerance stack would ever get to the point where it was tight and it didn't feel right. But it would get to the point where it's tight and feels solid and just performs at a very high level. So I think that's the case. Now, I don't have any real issues with this copy of the Genius. It doesn't feel quite as smooth as, you know, some of the other reels that I've used. You know, most notably, I have a Kingdom Micro Monster, which is truly the same reel, just a different company. They got a slightly different frame on it, you know, just this part of the frame. Same brakes, looks like same spool, pretty much same everything, right? They just different, they could just have different. I actually looked at this and like it literally there's a little logo etched on the Kingdom as well, I think. So you know, those two reels feel pretty much the same. The weird thing was though, this one didn't cast quite as far on a consistent basis, and it just didn't feel quite as smooth. Another thing that I've noticed in a lot of the AliExpress reels is, when it comes down to accuracy, your ability to consistently hit a spot, it mainly shows up for me when I'm trout fishing. You know, sometimes I'm trying to just get right to the edge of a log or right along this bank cut. And so you make a couple casts and it's like, okay, we're good. Then all of a sudden you get one that goes 3 or 4 extra feet long or 3 or 4 feet short. You know, and so sometimes you waste the cast. Sometimes you almost like completely blow up the hole, because if you get into the bank, it's either, what do? You snap it off, you know, lose a $3, a $5, a $15 lure, or do you walk over there and get it? It seems like I get that much more on the less expensive budget reels, which kind of makes sense, right? You should be getting something for your money out of the higher end reels. I don't really recall getting that very often. Now, sometimes what'll happen is I'll switch a bait, or, you know, I'll switch reels and they're casting completely different. They're on different rods and like, ooh, okay, you know, so you got to readjust. But it's not this cast to cast variation that I sometimes feel like I get with the not just the Dark Wolf Ultra clones either. I've seen it with most of those reels. So other cool things about this though, clicking drag. Feels like maybe it's a little bit quieter than some of the other ones. It has a clicking spool tension adjustment. The brake knobs adjust. Boy, that's nice and loud on that one. The spool's nicely ported. You know, it feels smooth. You get just a little bit of, you know, you can feel a little bit of movement in it as you're working it. Now, this particular reel has caught my largest fish of the year. So it performs well. I mean, when you get a fish that wants to pull drag, it seems to do it very well. I was essentially trout fishing, you know, maybe fishing for some panfish, and I hooked into a decent sized carp. This reel did great, so I don't have any concerns about it. I sort of dig the blue, but it's a little on the flat. So this doesn't affect the performance whatsoever. But when I was getting this, I was thinking like the Shimano blues, and how, you know, there's a little bit more metallic flake, a little bit more sparkle in it. This is nice, you know, the finish is good. But it didn't quite have the pop that maybe I thought it would have. It has no bearing on the fishing whatsoever. Braking. So the brakes on these are just like the Kingdom Micro Monster. just like the Doviello Acura. You know, where this falls short of those other two is it doesn't have the option to have a deeper spool, not that I'm aware of as well. Anyway, so you know, that's a little bit of a sort of a bummer. You know, right now this is going for $71 on AliExpress. For $71, it's a fantastic reel. I think it's a great entry point. You know, when I got the first Dark Wolf Ultra a year and a half ago, it's the reel that hooked me on bait finesse. And I used it a ton last year. I haven't used it as much this year. I've used it a little bit, and that's what actually it's what started me thinking about the difference between, you know, the $80 and under reels and then the reels that you're paying close to $200 or more for. And that's where I think some of the latest generation of reels that's coming out of China and Korea to some extent, I think they're really going to maybe fill that gap between, you know, the budget $80 reel and, okay, now I got to spend $200 to get into a Shimano or $250 to get into a Daiwa. Is there going to be, you know, these readily available reels that you can get for $120 or $150? I think so. I'm hoping to try some of them out, but we'll see how they go. You know, there's a few other reels out there that if you can figure out the right way to get them, they might slot into that category as well. But for the readily available stuff, it's basically $80 or less or $200 or more until very, very recently. So in that budget category, you know, the Genius, the Elf is the same reel as I understand it. It just has a different gear ratio. It's the lower gear ratio. So essentially now you've got the Dark Wolf Ultra at the 7.1 or 7.3 gear ratio. You've got the Genius at the 8.1, and then you've got the Elf at 6.1 or 6.3. They're all good reels, but again, they're budget reels, and you feel the difference. The one concern that I had going into this a year and a half ago was when I bought a $72 or $75 reel, like how well is it going to hold up? I have had zero reliability issues with any of the products, actually. You know, they hold up well. You know, they don't feel any different to me. I think the only perception of difference that I have is that I've spent more time with higher end reels. I don't get as excited all the time to fish with them, but in the right situations, they still work well. I'm still planning on holding on to one of my original Dark Wolf Ultras. A lot of the other ones, I'm not picking up to fish with them, so I'm going to let somebody else enjoy them. But ultimately, if you want a good budget reel, if you're the kind of person who just likes to try all the different products, this is a great experience. To me, if you've tried the Dark Wolf Ultra or the Acura or the Micro Monster or the Elf, there's probably one or two other ones in there, you're probably not going to feel much different. Maybe you like the blue, and so that would be a reason to buy it. It is one of the reasons that I was interested in it. But other than that, you know, it's been good. I found a couple times when I really pushed this reel, it wanted to backlash. You know, like, so if you want to go put a little extra zing on the cast without upping the brakes, a lot of reels will do that. You know, so this one caught me off guard a couple times, and so I did have a couple backlashes on this one. You know, other than that, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it again if I wanted a budget reel, if I wanted this gear ratio. Tsurinoya, I don't think I've had any issues with any of their products, and I look forward to trying more of their stuff. Actually, I haven't tried any of their rods yet, and they make a handful of really nice rods too. So, you know, I'm not getting rid of it because I don't like the company or it's not good. It's just I have other options that I enjoy fishing with more. As an entry point, as a backup reel, maybe just to carry around in your bag all the time, or something to have for, you know, maybe people who don't fish all that often and you just want to have a setup, you know, for somebody else to use when they come with you, you know, without giving them a, you know, maybe a $400 or $500 setup that you would fish with on a regular basis and limit some of your choices. I think this is a great option. Tsurinoya Genius, another of the Dark Wolf Ultra clones that is really fun to fish. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I tried to really whip that one, and I got a pretty serious bird's nest. Okay, well, I feel some cold wind coming. It's getting dark, and I pushed the envelope a little bit too far on the spool tension for the Genius, so I have to get that fixed at home. Walk through another spider web again.